Okay, so,
Yes.
we're diving deep into The Godfather Part II, and more specifically, all those user reviews and trivia tidbits you dug up from IMDb.
Yeah, it sounds like you want more than just like a basic plot summary, huh? You're
Exactly.
after all those juicy details that make this thing a legend, right?
Yeah, like how did Robert De Niro transform into young Vito Corleone?
Right.
And does it actually surpass the original?
Big question right there.
Huge question. And one of the first things that really jumps out from these reviews is how the film is structured.
Hmm.
It's not your typical sequel.
Yeah.
It's not just picking up where the first one left off.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, we get these two storylines all woven together.
Yeah.
Young Vito's rise to power happening at the same time as Michael's, descent into darkness.
Very interesting choice.
What do you make of that?
I think it's fascinating how Coppola uses that parallel storytelling to not just like expand the world we saw in the first film,
Hmm.
but to really create a conversation between those two generations of Corleones. The viewer, you get to witness how their choices and their circumstances mold them into the men they become.
And looking at the reviews, it seems like that structure is a double-edged sword.
Mm-hmm.
Some users, like, the one who calls it the greatest film ever made, they're totally captivated by it.
Right.
But then you have others who, one found it sprawling and unfocused,
Right.
feeling a bit overwhelmed.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's a complex film, and its ambition can be polarizing, I guess you could say. But even the reviews that critique the pacing or certain plot elements, they still acknowledge the artistry and ambition of Coppola's vision.
Yeah. Right.
It's not a film that aims to please everyone. It demands your attention. It challenges you.
Yeah, it definitely makes you think. And speaking of dedication, we had to talk about De Niro's transformation into young Vito. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
learning Sicilian for months and then delivering all his lines in the dialect,
Wow.
that's some serious commitment.
That's dedication. De Niro's preparation is legendary, but it goes beyond just the language, It's about embodying the character's essence, his mannerisms, his presence, his very soul. And the IMDb reviews highlight how that authenticity just shines through in his performance. Many users point to De Niro's portrayal as the reason they consider Part 2 a worthy successor to the original.
And this attention to detail is everywhere. Did you see that little trivia tidbit about the shirt pattern goof?
Oh, yeah. What was that?
Apparently, they had some weather delays during filming, lost the original shirt, and the production designer had to recreate the pattern by hand.
Wow.
Talk about attention to detail, even for something as small as a shirt pattern.
Right. It's those little details that often reveal the dedication of the entire crew to create something authentic and memorable. It shows that every element, no matter how seemingly insignificant, was considered.
So now for the big question.
Okay.
Does The Godfather Part II surpass the original?
Hmm.
The IMDb ratings and user reviews are pretty divided on this.
It's a tough one. It really makes you think about what makes a sequel better than the original Cappagum. Is it about outdoing the first film in every way? Or is it about adding depth and complexity to the existing world?
Yeah, and it's interesting because a lot of the users, like the one who said to call it a sequel is a travesty, they argue that Part 2 is more of a companion piece, a deeper exploration of the themes and characters from the first film.
And that's where its brilliance lies. I think it's not simply trying to rehash the success of The Godfather,
Yeah.
It's building upon it, challenging it, and ultimately enriching the entire saga.
There are some dissenting opinions, though. Some reviewers, even those who appreciate the acting and the direction, they find the pacing a bit slow, or certain plot elements unconvincing. And one user even argues that De Niro's portrayal of Vito's rise to power is unrealistic, lacking the ruthlessness of real-life figures.
It's important to remember that every film, no matter how acclaimed, will have its critics, right? These contrasting viewpoints just reflect the diversity of the audience, and they add to the ongoing conversation surrounding the film.
For sure. We've covered the dual storylines, the debate about surpassing the original, the amazing acting.
Yeah.
But what about Al Pacino's performance as Michael?
Oh, yeah.
One user even claimed it's better than in the original.
Pacino delivers a truly masterful performance in this film. He embodies Michael's descent into darkness with chilling intensity. You see the weight of power, the isolation, and the corrosive effects of violence eating away at his soul.
Yeah, it's such a powerful contrast to his father's journey.
Right.
Michael inherits this legacy.
Yeah.
But it ultimately consumes him in a way Vito never experienced.
Exactly, and that's where the film's exploration of the American dream comes in, Vito achieves success through hard work and community building.
Yeah.
Michael, however, seeks power, and this ultimately leads to his downfall.
And the reviews really show how much this theme resonates with viewers. People see their own struggles, their own compromises reflected in Michael's tragic journey.
It's that timeless quality, that ability to tap into shared human experiences that makes The Godfather Part II such an enduring masterpiece.
We've talked about the acting and the themes, but we can't forget about the cinematography and the music. They're just as crucial to the film's impact. What are your thoughts on those elements?
Oh, absolutely. The film's visual brilliance, from the dimly lit interiors to the sun-drenched landscapes, it creates a visual language that deepens our understanding of the characters and their world.
And Nino Rota's score.
Oh, yeah.
Haunting and melancholic like a character itself.
Absolutely.
Foreshadows tragedy and heightens the emotional intensity of each scene.
Rota's score is a perfect example of how music can elevate a film from mere entertainment to a work of art. It's not simply background noise,
Yeah.
It's woven into the storytelling, adding layers of meaning and emotion.
One of the reviews mentioned this recurring motif of violence happening during parties and religious festivals.
Oh.
What do you think Coppola is trying to convey with that juxtaposition?
The contrast is striking, isn't it?
Yeah.
It highlights the hypocrisy at the heart of the Corleone family, They strive to maintain this facade of respectability.
Yeah.
But their world is built on violence and betrayal.
It's like a commentary on the corrupting influence of power, how it can twist even the most sacred rituals into opportunities for brutality.
Precisely. And that brings us to the heart of the film, Michael Corleone. His evolution, his descent into ruthlessness.
Yeah.
It's both fascinating and heartbreaking.
The reviews really delve into the complexities of his character.
Yeah.
Some viewers sympathize with his struggle, seeing him as a victim of circumstance. Others condemn his choices, seeing him as a monster of his own making.
And that's what makes Michael such a compelling character. He's not a simple villain.
Right.
He's a tragic figure, a man whose ambition ultimately destroys him.
It seems like The Godfather Part II is so much more than just a gangster movie. It's a complex tapestry of family ambition and the corrupting nature of power. We've seen how it continues to captivate audiences, sparking debates and inspiring countless interpretations, but there's still so much more to uncover.
Yeah, definitely.
Welcome back to our deep dive into The Godfather Part II. So far, we've covered a lot of ground, from the film's unique structure to those incredible performances from Pacino and De Niro.
Yeah.
But now let's shift our focus to some of the finer details, those subtle nuances that really make this film stand out.
You're absolutely right. There's a depth to this film that goes beyond the surface level. And one aspect that several IMDb users brought up was the film's exploration of family loyalty. It's a central theme that runs through both storylines, wouldn't you say?
It absolutely does, and it's fascinating how it plays out so differently between Vito and Michael. On one hand, you have Vito, who builds his empire on this foundation of loyalty and respect.
Yeah.
But then you see Michael's reign, which is marked by suspicion and betrayal.
That difference is key to understanding the film's message, I think. Think about it. Vito earns loyalty through genuine care and concern for those around him, He understands the importance of community, of building relationships based on trust and mutual benefit.
While Michael, on the other hand, seems to view loyalty as a transaction, something to be demanded rather than earned. He's so consumed by his own paranoia and ambition that he ends up pushing away everyone who truly cares about him.
Yeah, it's tragic. His isolation is ultimately his downfall. He becomes trapped in this cycle of violence and betrayal, unable to break free from the consequences of his actions.
It's like he's imprisoned by his own legacy, unable to escape the patterns established by his father, even though you can sense his desire to be different.
One user review I found really insightful described The Godfather Part II as not really being about the mafia at all, but about the internal struggles of one man, Michael's battle with his own demons. That's a brilliant observation. The film definitely transcends the typical gangster movie tropes and becomes this deeply personal exploration of the human condition. It's about the choices we make, the compromises we accept, and the consequences that echo through generations.
I think that's a big part of why it resonates with audiences. Even today, we can all relate to that feeling of being trapped by our past, by the expectations of others.
Absolutely. It's a timeless story about the search for identity, meaning, and even redemption in a world that often feels unforgiving.
Along with family loyalty and the corrupting influence of power, another major theme is the American dream.
Yeah.
Both Vito and Michael are driven by this concept. But the film seems to present two very different interpretations of what that dream means and what it costs to achieve it.
You hit the nail on the head. Vito's story is often seen as a classic immigrant narrative. He arrives in America with nothing, and through hard work and determination builds a life for himself and his family. He's willing to play by the rules, even if those rules are sometimes bent.
He really embodies that classic image of the American dream, the idea that anyone can achieve success if they're willing to put in the effort. But then you have Michael, who inherits his father's empire and tries to legitimize it, to achieve that same American dream, but through more conventional means.
And yet he learns very quickly that the system isn't designed to let him, in the same forces that allowed his father to rise to power, won't accept him as an equal.
It's heartbreaking because that's where his tragedy lies. He's forced to compromise his values and ultimately embrace the very darkness he was trying to escape. It almost feels like the film is saying that the American dream is an illusion, a seductive myth that leads to corruption and disillusionment.
That's a valid interpretation, but I also think the film's message is more nuanced than that. It's not necessarily saying the American dream is impossible to achieve, but rather that the pursuit of it can come at a very high cost.
It all comes down to the choices we make, the sacrifices we're willing to accept, and the consequences that inevitably follow.
Exactly, and that complexity is what makes The Godfather Part II so thought-provoking. It doesn't offer easy answers. It challenges us to confront our own beliefs about success, ambition, and what the American dream really means.
So we've explored these heavy, thought-provoking themes.
Right.
But can we take a little detour and talk about that hilarious production detail one of the IMDb users mentioned?
Oh, yeah.
The one about Hyman Roth's shirt pattern?
Oh, yes, that infamous shirt pattern goof.
Yeah.
It's a great reminder that even in a film as meticulously crafted as this mistakes happen,
It does.
it adds a touch of human fallibility to the whole thing.
It turns out they lost Roth's original shirt during filming.
Oh, wow.
They were shooting his birthday party scene, which ended up taking over a week because of weather delays. The production designer tried to recreate the pattern, but it wasn't an exact match.
And you know what? That tiny detail has become a source of amusement for fans over the years.
Yeah.
It's a fun reminder that even in a film as serious as The Godfather Part II, there's still room for a little bit of levity.
It speaks volumes about the film's lasting legacy that has been scrutinized and analyzed for decades, yet people are still uncovering these little details, these new interpretations.
It's the kind of film that rewards multiple viewings. Each time you watch it, you'll notice something different, some subtle nuance that adds to your understanding of the story and the characters.
That's the sign of a true masterpiece. It's a film that keeps evolving, revealing new layers of meaning even after all these years.
We've touched on the themes, the characters, the cinematography, even that little production goof.
Yeah.
But there's another crucial element. We can't overlook the music.
Nino Rota's iconic score.
Yeah.
It's more than just background music, what did you say? It's almost like an emotional landscape that guides you through the film's complex narrative.
It's haunting, melancholic, beautiful. It perfectly captures the film's mood of operatic tragedy. Rota's score is a masterclass in using music to enhance storytelling. It foreshadows events, heightens tension, and underscores the emotional states of the characters.
There's that recurring motif, "Speak softly, love," which is associated with both Vito and Michael.
Yeah.
It's a theme that evokes longing loss and the yearning for something unattainable.
It reminds us that even the most ruthless men are capable of tenderness and vulnerability. And it also highlights the cyclical nature of their stories, how they're both ultimately bound by the same forces.
The music adds a depth and complexity to the film that words simply can't express. It's such an integral part of the cinematic experience, and a big reason why The Godfather Part II remains such a powerful and enduring film.
One thing an IMDb user pointed out, which I found quite insightful, is how the music often creates a contrast with the violence unfolding on screen.
That's a great observation. Like that scene where Michael orders the assassination of his own brother, Fredo.
Yeah.
The music is soft, almost mournful, as if lamenting the tragic inevitability of his actions.
That juxtaposition is incredibly effective. It highlights the emotional weight of Michael's decision, the profound sense of loss that accompanies his descent into darkness.
It's as if the music is reminding us that even in the most brutal world, there are still flickers of humanity and compassion.
Exactly. And that's what elevates The Godfather Part II beyond a typical gangster flick. It's a meditation on the human condition, on the forces that shape our lives, and the choices we make in the face of overwhelming adversity.
We've spent quite a bit of time on Michael's journey, his descent into darkness.
Yeah.
But what about Vito's story? How does his rise to power compare to his son's?
That's where the brilliance of the film's parallel storytelling really shines, by juxtaposing Vito's origins with Michael's reign. Coppola creates a dialogue between two generations, two contrasting visions of power and its consequences.
And it's interesting to see how the IMDb user reviews interpret Vito's character. Some view him sympathetically as a man forced into a life of crime by circumstance,
Right.
while others see him as a ruthless killer, no different from the men he sought to overthrow.
Coppola doesn't shy away from the moral complexities of Vito's story. He allows the viewers to draw their own conclusions about his motivations and the justifications for his actions.
It makes you really think about the gray areas of morality, those blurred lines between good and evil. It's not a simple black and white story.
And De Niro's performance is simply masterful. He captures both Vito's charisma and his underlying ruthlessness. You believe in this character completely.
He embodies both the promise and the peril of the American dream, and I think that's why the debate over whether Part 2 surpasses the original is so fascinating. It's not a question of which film is technically better,
Right.
but rather how each one contributes to the larger story, how they complement and challenge each other.
Part 2 isn't trying to replace or outdo the original. It's expanding on it, adding layers of depth and meaning. It's a testament to the enduring power of the Godfather saga.
Another fascinating aspect is the film's historical context. The Godfather Part II is set against the backdrop of major historical events,
Uh-huh.
from the rise of Castro in Cuba to the McCarthy hearings in America. But they aren't just background noise, are they?
Not at all. Coppola uses these events as integral parts of the story. They shape the characters' choices, their relationships, and ultimately their destinies. Think about Michael's involvement in Cuba. It mirrors America's own entanglement in Cold War politics.
It's a reminder that the personal and the political are always intertwined. Even intimate family dramas are influenced by the larger events of history.
And what strikes me is how the historical context foreshadows the decline of the American mafia. We see Michael struggling to adapt to a changing world, trying to find a place for his organization in a society that's becoming increasingly hostile to organized crime.
He's almost like a relic of a bygone era.
Yeah.
His methods are becoming obsolete.
Exactly, and that feeling of decline permeates the entire film. It's reflected in Michael's isolation, his paranoia, and the betrayals that surround him.
It all culminates in that chilling final scene where he sits alone, his empire in ruins, and his soul consumed by darkness.
Yeah.
What a powerful ending, leaving you with this sense of tragedy and the feeling that it couldn't have ended any other way.
It's as if the film is saying that even the most powerful empires eventually crumble, and that the pursuit of power often leads to self-destruction.
That's a message that resonates just as strongly. Today, we live in a world where the pursuit of power, wealth, and influence often comes at the expense of human connection, compassion, and empathy.
The Godfather Part II serves as a powerful cautionary tale. It reminds us that the price of power might be far greater than we can imagine.
It challenges us to really examine our values, our ambitions, and the choices we make in our own pursuit of success.
It's a film that stays with you, prompting you to question the nature of power, the meaning of family, and the true cost of achieving your dreams.
It's been such a rich discussion so far, and before we move on to the final part of our deep dive, I'm curious to hear what aspects of The Godfather Part II have stood out to you the most. Welcome back to our deep dive into The Godfather Part II. We've explored the themes, the characters, that fascinating historical context. But what about the film's impact? How did the film released back in 1974 shape not just the gangster genre, but filmmaking as a whole?
That's a great question. This is where we move from the specifics of the film itself to its broader influence. So many IMDb users consistently point to the film's visual brilliance, particularly the cinematography. Would you say that dark, shadowy, almost painterly style has been influential?
Oh, it's instantly recognizable. Gordon Willis, the cinematographer, really created a visual language for this film. Those deep shadows and rich colors draw you into the Corleone's world, this world of opulence and moral decay.
And it's not just about aesthetics. The use of light and shadow is incredibly purposeful. It almost becomes a character in itself, reflecting the shifting power dynamics and the secrets that permeate the story.
Like, think about the scene where Michael confronts Carlo, his brother-in-law, about his betrayal.
Yeah.
The dimly lit room with Michael shrouded in shadows perfectly symbolizes his descent into darkness. You can feel his transformation into a ruthless leader right before your eyes.
Absolutely. Those visual choices add layers of meaning to the narrative. And then we have the music. We've already discussed Nino wrote a score, but its influence goes far beyond The Godfather Part II. It's become synonymous with the entire gangster genre.
It's instantly recognizable, and so many films and TV shows have tried to capture that same sound. What's remarkable about Roda's work is how he blends those traditional Italian folk melodies with grand operatic themes.
It creates this feeling of both intimacy and epic scope, mirroring the Corleone family story, the personal and the political intertwined.
The Godfather Part II pushed boundaries when it came to storytelling in Hollywood as well. That complex, nonlinear narrative jumping back and forth between time periods was groundbreaking for its time. Do you think that's had a lasting impact?
It absolutely has. It speaks to Coppola's ambition as a filmmaker, his willingness to challenge the conventions of traditional storytelling. I'd say it paved the way for other films that explore complex themes and characters through nonlinear narratives, adding layers of depth and nuance.
You see that influence in films like Goodfellas, Casino, The Departed. They all owe a debt to The Godfather Part II in their exploration of the criminal underworld, their use of voiceover, and their non-chronological storytelling.
And then there's the film's undeniable impact on popular culture. The lines, the characters, they've become so iconic, constantly referenced and parodied.
And everyone knows the line, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer, even if they've never seen the film.
Right. And Michael Corleone, with his cold, calculating stare, has become a symbol of power and corruption, instantly recognizable. It's a testament to the film's enduring power.
But for me, it's so much more than a gangster movie. It's a tragedy, a family drama, a historical epic. It's a film that grapples with these universal themes of ambition, loyalty, betrayal, and the corrupting influence of power.
Themes that are still relevant today, they're reflected in our own lives, in our struggles with morality and compromise. One IMDb user even described watching The Godfather Part II as taking a masterclass in storytelling and filmmaking.
It's true. It's a film you can study and analyze for years and still discover new layers of meaning.
That's the mark of a true classic. It transcends time, continues to spark conversations, and challenges our perspectives, even decades after its release.
So where does this leave us? What have we learned from diving deep into The Godfather Part II?
I think it's clear that this film is more than just entertainment. It's a cultural touchstone, a work of art that has shaped our understanding of cinema, of storytelling, and even of the human condition.
It asks difficult questions and forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about ourselves and the world around us.
And it leaves you with a lingering sense of unease, a haunting reminder that the pursuit of power can have a devastating effect on even the most noble souls.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a thought we focused on the film itself. But how does it connect to you, the listener?
Here's something to ponder. The film explores the tension between the past and the present, how the choices of those who came before us impact our own lives. Think about the legacy we inherit and the legacy we in turn pass on. What choices will you make to shape your own story?
That's a powerful question to consider. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into The Godfather Part II. It's a film that demands to be seen, discussed, and debated. We hope this conversation has given you some new insights and perspectives on this cinematic masterpiece.